markets because President Trump has said he is recommending a new 50% tariff on all imports from the European Union.
The European Commission says it's preparing a range of tariffs on U.S. products worth some 95 billion euros.
The EU is not going to budge based on this. They're going to carry on, stay calm, carry on, stick to their positions.
What if I told you that a single decision by the EU could wipe out $2 trillion from the global economy? And no, this isn't just about dollars and euros. It's about power, influence, and even the future of your grocery bill. Stay tuned as we unravel how tariffs, canceled billion-dollar orders, and secret global alliances are changing everything. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. When two economic giants start throwing punches, it's not exactly a fair fight. It's more like an expensive disaster. In 2018, the Trump administration slapped heavy tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, claiming it was in the interest of national security. Now, whether you buy that justification or not, those tariffs didn't stop at metals. They quickly spread to automobiles and other key industries, sending shockwaves through global markets. The EU, of course, wasn't going to just sit there and take it,
dramatically raising the tensions in his global trade war. That came just a short time ago via Truth Social, his own social media network.
There is also the potential of targeting EU exports to the United States, and these are scrap metals, iron, aluminium, and steel.
And it comes despite a recent pause on tariffs for 90 days. We're still well within that window.
They fired back with tariffs of their own, targeting iconic U.S. goods like bourbon, motorcycles, and even peanut butter. Nothing says economic retaliation like pricier jars of Skippy. But this wasn't just a tit-for-tat squabble. It escalated into a full-blown trade war that spiraled out of control. Costs soared on both sides. For example, companies like Tesla, which normally thrived on their international celebrity, saw their European sales crumble under political tensions and increased tariffs. And then there was Boeing, which had a jaw-dropping $43 billion deal with the EU dangling by a thread. That's not just some chunky change.
Lamenting on Truth Social that negotiations with the EU are going nowhere, the US president pledged to bring that new tariff starting on June 1st.
These goods are specifically what would be US exports to the European Union.
That is just 9 days from now. The president also threatened to impose a 25% import tax on Apple iPhones.
It's the kind of sum that causes accountants to break out the panic spreadsheets. The damage wasn't just visible in contracts and sales reports. The US economy started to buckle under the weight of its own aggressive policies. A 0.3% dip in GDP might not sound catastrophic at first, but when combined with a record trade deficit of $140.5 billion, the bigger picture becomes pretty grim. US manufacturers were hit hard, seeing raw material costs skyrocket, while average consumers grumbled their way through higher prices on everything from cars to canned goods. Turns out, trade wars aren't easy to win, or cheap. Meanwhile, the EU wasn't shedding too many tears. Instead, they turned their attention to Canada. Thanks to a little deal called the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, or CETA, Canada suddenly became Europe's go-to buddy for trading goods and services. It's like the EU swiped right on Canada and ghosted the US. But this isn't just about dodging tariffs. It's setting the stage for something much bigger.
The EU has not been willing to budge. The EU is dedicated to the global trade order, the predictable rules that we've had.
It's not pharmaceuticals, health-related products. This includes things like syringes and tampons, alcohol and batteries.
The EU cannot accept this 10% tariff, general tariff, and then 25% on cars.
And Europe's next moves? Let's just say they involve green energy, global influence, and a whole lot less of the United States. Breaking up is never easy, but the EU isn't shedding any tears over its growing distance from the United States. Tariffs might have been the trigger, but now Europe is going full speed ahead to redefine its trade and energy strategies. And let's be honest, it's less about emotion and more about logic.
In case trade talks with Washington break down, products which could be targeted include industrial and
Aircraft is on their cars and car parts, agri-food as well as fish, electronics, health-related products.
agricultural goods, cars, and aircraft. The Commission has also launched a complaint against U.S. trade tariffs with the World Trade Organization.
Why deal with unpredictable tariffs when you can invest in a future built around green energy and wider global partnerships? Enter Repower EU, the ambitious plan to reduce fossil fuel reliance and embrace renewable energy on a massive scale. And this isn't just talk. By 2030, the EU plans to import 20 million tons of renewable hydrogen, a goal that places it firmly ahead in the push for a green economy while sidestepping U.S. energy exports. But wait, it's not just hydrogen. The EU is rapidly diversifying its trade partners. Canada has become a key ally thanks to CETA, opening the door for tariff-free trade and green collaboration. Meanwhile, Africa is stepping up in ways that go beyond raw material supply. Morocco and Egypt are now exporting renewable energy directly to Europe, and the EU-Africa partnership is focused on balanced trade, not just extraction. The EU is also eyeing the Indo-Pacific, reviving trade deals with Malaysia, and building on its Vietnam Free Trade Agreement. It's like the EU is speed dating the global economy while the US figures out its next move. Of course, energy and trade are just half the story. The EU knows that economic independence also means military strength. Programs like PESCO and the European Defence Fund, EDF, aim to reduce reliance on outside suppliers and sharpen intra-European cooperation. Canada has even jumped in on the action, joining PESCO's military mobility project for streamlined defense strategies. With growing defense budgets and tighter alliances, the EU isn't just minding its wallet, it's gearing up for bigger global influence. This strategy is about more than avoiding tariffs. It's about the EU redesigning its future, one trade deal and hydrogen import at a time. Which raises an interesting question. Is this the start of a new global power structure? The EU isn't just tweaking its trade rules, it's rewriting the playbook entirely. By betting big on green energy, stronger defense systems, and diverse trade deals, Europe is making it clear it doesn't want to be tied to any one partner, especially not America. With initiatives like CETA and renewable imports from nations like Morocco and Vietnam, the EU is pioneering a multipolar trade model. This isn't just about cutting tariffs, it's about gaining control in a fragmented world. So, here's the question. Will the US adjust to this shifting balance of power, or simply watch Europe pave its own way forward?